parade, and they worked tirelessly, to say the least, to ensure public safety. Hundreds of thousands of people filled the streets of on the north side. But the drunken, rowdy behavior that some engaged in after the parade, however, was very challenging, to say the least. 3 people were shot, and 1 woman is in critical condition. Officers were nearby and reacted swiftly and arrested a person of interest who's being questioned at this moment. A gun was also recovered. 3 other people were stabbed. 24-year-old woman is in custody for these stabbings due to the quick efforts of the Chicago police officers on the scene. Multiple police officers were punched and slapped trying to disperse unruly crowds. 1 officer was taken to the hospital for injuries. A total of 26 people were placed under arrest for various charges. Just hours earlier, people from all backgrounds, including families and with their children, were out together celebrating. No Chicagoan should have to think twice about their safety. As a result of the brave and courageous efforts of Chicago police officers, June 2022 compared with June 2021, homicides are down 20%. And for that same period, shootings are down 20%. Citywide, year-to-date, shootings are down 17%. That's January to June versus January to June 2021. Shooting victims are down 17%, as well as homicides being down 10%. That's the January to June comparison, in contrast with the June to June comparison of 20% and 20% for both categories. In our top 55 beats, which account for over half the violence in the city, homicides are down 25%. Shootings are down 33% in these areas. For the weekend, shootings went, this weekend compared to the same weekend last year, shootings went down 46%, and shooting victims were down 33% compared to that same weekend last year. Since January of this year, officers have recovered 6,044 illegal guns off the streets of Chicago. That's a 5% increase over last year. Our police officers have been working tirelessly to protect the people of Chicago. In addition, officers have made 2,800 gun arrests this year. And I can't say this enough, I'll keep repeating it. Each gun recovered, regardless of how, is a potential life saved. And each gun recovered is a result of dangerous work done by our police officers who serve with courage each and every day. An example of that is 25 officers have been shot at or shot this year. 25. Officers have arrested 665 offenders this year for carjacking-related offenses. 58% of those arrests are young people, juveniles. We'll continue collaborating for a whole-of-government approach that offers alternatives and mentorship for at-risk people, but we will also hold you accountable, regardless of your age, for breaking the law. We are committed to visibility, engagement, and collaboration. Coming into this last weekend, the city was shocked by the shooting of a 5-month-old little girl. This is an unthinkable tragedy, and we want to take just a moment to offer our deepest condolences on behalf of the Chicago Police Department to the family. Our officers and detectives are working to bring the offenders involved to justice. This is unacceptable, and we won't stand for it. There were several notable arrests over these last several days. Arrests for murder, attempt murder, aggravated discharge of a firearm, aggravated vehicular hijacking, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated criminal sexual assault, and for burglary over these last several days. More examples of the hard work and dedication by our Chicago police officers. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rich Gaddis, Executive Director of OAMC, and then He'll be followed by Dorval Carter, and then I'll come back for a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent, and good afternoon, everybody. This past weekend was another busy one in Chicago with several large-scale events citywide, including concerts, public gatherings, and yesterday's Pride Parade. We want to thank all the city workers who were responsible for cleaning streets, keeping traffic moving, transporting people on trains and buses, our call takers and dispatchers, certainly police and fire departments, as well as OAMC emergency managers and our public safety partners for keeping the public safe during these events. With 240 miles of the city to monitor and protect, the Office of Emergency Management and Communications coordinated efforts with the Chicago Police, Fire, multiple city agencies, and event organizers to ensure the safety of all our residents and visitors. OAMC can receive up to 20,000 calls per day to our 911 and 301 call centers and coordinate with our public safety partners to ensure the city is postured accordingly to respond and modify plans when needed. In Chicago, we maintain communications with our public safety partners on an ongoing basis through our daily coordination calls and our weekend SOC calls, which provide opportunities to report, strategize, collaborate, and mitigate issues. On Sunday, the EOC was activated by OAMC specifically for the Pride Parade to provide additional support and coordination for this popular 4-mile parade. EOC was staffed by representatives from additional city departments and agencies and coordinated with the forward command post to monitor the event and coordinate efforts with local, state, and federal agencies. As we have done throughout the weekend and will continue to do, OAMC monitors public gatherings, protests, as well as local and national events through the Operations Center. While there is no known actionable information or specific threat to public safety in Chicago, we want to do our best to maintain a heightened sense of awareness. We realize with possible threats becoming more dynamic, several high-profile events could be exploited to justify a cause. With this in mind, we continue to monitor local and national events. Everyone has a role to play. As you are aware, tomorrow is Election Day for the Illinois primary in Chicago, and currently we are finalizing plans to ensure the safety of residents for the July 4th holiday weekend, which includes Navy Pier fireworks on Saturday, July 2nd. We want to remind Chicagoans to be cognizant of surroundings, especially in large gatherings and high-profile activities, and urge everyone to report suspicious activity to 911. If you see something, say something. Be safe and responsible, Chicago, as we head into this weekend. Thank you. Carter?
Thank you, Director Gaitis, Superintendent. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased to share that service to and from the Pride events this weekend went smoothly. We knew that there would be large crowds at any given time, and the Pride events held throughout the city. As such, we planned for it with extra buses and trains that were deployed as needed. The dedicated men and women of the CTA understood the task at hand and really stepped up to ensure that everyone who wanted to go out and celebrate and take part of the Pride events were able to do so without issue. Importantly, the planning of bus and rail service is a complex issue. There are several variables that impact our ability to meet scheduled service throughout any given day, some of which are not always predictable. I don't think it comes as any surprise to all of you that we've had service challenges over the past several months, and I want to take a moment to just explain to you what we've been doing to address that and why those problems have existed. As has been the case across the entire public transit industry as well as other industries, the CTA has faced service challenges caused by staffing shortages for several months. While we have not reduced our scheduled service, our ability to meet those schedules have been influenced by a combination of impacts from COVID, including fewer operators on staff, as well as unpredictable absenteeism patterns. Again, while this issue is not new, CTA has been transparent with riders about it since January, posting additional details on a dedicated website and then alerts posted online and throughout our system. CTA is working aggressively to hire more staff and have implemented new initiatives to retain and hire staff. The unpredictable nature of absenteeism and the fluctuating factors affecting staffing on any given day do present complexities that are not easily addressed by scheduling adjustments. As such, we strive each day to meet our full scheduled service. We continue, however, to explore ways to manage this issue on a daily basis. With regard to the unconscionable act of violence that occurred on one of our buses yesterday, please know that we are doing everything we can to aid the Chicago Police Department and find ways to stem these egregious acts of violence that are occurring on or near CTA property. An invaluable tool in this effort is our comprehensive network of more than 33,000 security cameras. And while CPD has access to these real-time feeds, CTA personnel also play a vital role in piecing together the timeline of events leading up to each incident and are also working as quickly as possible to pull and review any relevant footage that can help detectives identify and apprehend suspects. Each year, CTA's cameras aid investigators with hundreds of arrests. We continue to build on our decades-long partnership with CPD. And each day, officers from CPD and its dedicated public transportation section are strategically deployed across our system, complemented by our teams of unarmed guards who patrol our system to keep an eye out and report any suspicious activities or acts of crime. Both CPD and CTA remain focused on keeping the system safe and seeking ways to make it even safer for both our riders as well as our employees. Thank you.
Before we start with questions, I'm going to go through 3 investigative updates, if you don't mind. Hopefully, we can answer some questions before you ask. So regarding the 5-month-old little girl on June 24th that was shot and killed in the 7700 block of South Shore, no one is in custody at this time. Although we will be relentless in pursuing those responsible because of the unthinkable nature of this incident, I want to go through some of the things that we know about what happened. So an adult male relayed to our officers that he heard gunshots while driving in the 7700 block of South Shore Street. Then he observed another vehicle approach his car at a high rate of speed. And then that vehicle's occupants began shooting at his car. The adult male says he attempted to drive away, but the offender continued shooting. The adult male victim sustained a gunshot wound to the left side. The little girl sustained a gunshot wound to the left side of the head and is obviously deceased. Our detectives are continuing to investigate this. We solicit any help of anyone who has any information that could lead to bringing these offenders to justice. Second incident that Darville mentioned is on the CTA bus at 300 South Pulaski on June 26th. No one is in custody in that incident as well. We're reviewing video and other evidence, but here's what we know. Shortly after 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, June 26, 3 offenders boarded the CTA bus at Jackson and Pulaski. The bus then began traveling southbound on Pulaski when one offender produced an AR-15 assault rifle and another offender produced a semi-automatic pistol. The offender with the pistol was sitting next to the victim on the bus and shot the victim. Offenders then fled when the bus stopped down an alley on Jackson. 2 9mm shell casings were recovered from the bus. It does not appear from video footage that the offender with the AR-15 fired his weapon at this time. The AR-15 was recovered nearby. So we solicit any help from anyone that knows anything that can lead to bringing these offenders to justice as well in that incident. And then the last investigative update I have is a 4-year-old little girl killed on June 25th. No one has been charged in this tragic case either. But I'll go through what we know. On June 25th, 2022, officers responded to a call of a child bleeding from the nose in the 7900 block of South St. Lawrence Avenue. Officers met EMS personnel at the hospital where the child was taken and pronounced deceased. Officers noticed both old and fresh wounds on the child's body, as well as a severe burn on the child's foot. Our Area 2 detectives are continuing to investigate. No one at this time is in custody, but we're making progress. And I'll take a few questions. We're going to do the microphone, then just you guys hand it around. She was first. That's okay.
Superintendent Fox 32, Elizabeth Matthews. In the CTA bus shooting, Do we know, I know it's early in the investigation, do we know if they knew each other?
We don't know if they knew each other. It appears targeted in the nature that it happened on the CTA, sitting next to the person. But that's all we know at this point. As soon as we know more, we'll certainly let the public know.
Video surveillance will be released in that?
If we get to the point where we don't have any further leads, that's when we make the decision to release that to the public. If we feel like we have some really good leads, we'll try to go without releasing. Sometimes releasing creates more problems than it solves unless you just are at a dead end. Thanks.
Zach Miller with Chicago Sun-Times. Same question, but with the shooting of the 5-month-old, is there any video surveillance footage or a description of the offender that's going to be released?
I'm going to withhold coming further on that one. We do work, we are working some leads right now. We want to let those play out before we comment any further. Hopefully we can bring that one to a closure sooner rather than later.
Mariano Gielis, Univision Chicago. In the same case, is there any reason to believe the father of the baby was the target?
Well, there's several different versions. So there are witnesses that have come forward and given us several different versions. What I relate to you is what from the father's perspective. There are other versions from witnesses' perspective that's got us thinking about whether there was some crossfire or some other issues happening with other cars not related to this car, and this car was caught in the crossfire. So we'll follow up on all that, but it's too early to go with one version or the other. We'll let this play out with continuing to follow the evidence and looking at videos. Yes.
Superintendent Charlie Wojciechowski from Channel 5. With regard to the North Halstead incidents, people we talked to today, it seems like everyone was very happy with the police presence during the parade, the fact that the barricades were moved off the sidewalks to get a little more room. But then they said things changed at night after the parade.
As it always does, Charlie, but go ahead.
It does. But I get the question is it time to rethink how we deal with large crowds of young people, especially dispersing those young people before the problems can arise?
So there's a lot of dynamics going on, Charlie. There's just no one simple solution to making sure hundreds of thousands of people behave. All you need is a few knuckleheads in the crowd to have incidents like we had. Majority of people, we dealt with in a way that didn't cause a stabbing or a shooting. But for what we could control is being on post, following through on our plan to where we can quickly react if anything happened. And that is exactly what transpired, is that stabbing occurred, we were close, put the person in custody. Shooting occurred, we were close, person's in custody. Yes, we want to prevent it from happening in the first place, but with us being a police force of 13,000 and the crowd being hundreds of thousands, we could have had every police officer on this department, and New York's department and LA's department wouldn't have been enough people to control two knuckleheads in a crowd of hundreds of thousands. But the next best thing to preventing it is holding the person accountable and making an arrest right away, which is what happened. Yes, we're obviously going to try and learn. We're going to have a after-action report that Rich Gaddis is going to lead for all departments to identify lessons learned, things we can do better, things we can add. But we committed a lot of police resources, along with other city department resources, in coordination with CTA and other departments, so that we could have the best, safe, and the safest Pride Parade and after events that we possibly could. Unfortunately, all it took was two knuckleheads in a disagreement causing these two issues to happen. Thank you all so very much. I really appreciate it.
Can I ask one more?
Oh, yes, follow up.
This one, not a follow-up on that, but on the bus shooting.
Okay.
Is that being pursued as a gang conflict in some way? That he was
Too
targeting
early to tell at this point, but we're not leaving it off. We're not taking it off the table that it might be gang related, but too early to tell. Thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate it.
Hi, Leah Hope Channel.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you to the left. Just go ahead, I can hear you from there. I didn't see you over there, my bad. I do. Is this the gun legislation or which one?
Yeah,
Okay.
gun legislation.
So one thing I've acknowledged is that the gun bill that the president signed is you know, a sight for sore eyes. I mean, it's really, timing couldn't have been better given the challenges we all face in this country with a gun violence epidemic, a national gun violence epidemic, too many guns in the wrong hands. In addition, though, we're also, you know, looking at the extraordinary amount of ammunition. You think about some of the crime scenes we and other police departments work, there's 20, 30 casings, extraordinary amount of ammunition, you know, being fired through these, many times, weapons of war. So more work to be done, but we're pleased with something being done rather than nothing being done for the last couple of decades. So more to come, I'm sure. We'll continue pressing, the mayor and others will continue pressing federal government to add even more assistance or whatever else that Congress can do. But we're pleased with the bill being signed and that going into law, as well as other conversations we're having, particularly around ammunition, the extraordinary amount of ammunition that it takes for violent offenders to mete out the damage that they've done. Thank you also. Follow up.
On something that,
Oh, okay.
coming into the weekend.
Oh, for me or for Rich?
No, for you.
Okay.
Because Rich talked about it.
Thanks, Rich.
But going into the holiday weekend,
Sure. So there's obviously a lot going on beyond the Roe v. Wade decision, New York gun law decision, along with, you know, all of the, you know, gun violence that we all in this country have been experiencing these last 2.5 years. And to layer on, you know, we're still in a pandemic. You know, we're still in a pandemic, coming out of a pandemic, and trying to navigate, you know, what society wants law enforcement to be. I think there's been a lot of, you know, pendulum swinging the last 2.5 years of what society will support. But one thing that is consistent, the dedication and commitment of Chicago police officers. Their bravery just goes, sometimes you can't find the words to describe the bravery and courage it takes to take these illegal weapons off very, very dangerous people. 2,800 arrests for possession of illegal guns, or 2,800 times that a Chicago police officer put their life on the line for all of you and us, for all of you. They put their life on the line 2,800 times this year so far to protect us. That's what you can bank on as Chicago police officers, doing what they can to include making the ultimate sacrifice to protect all of us. Yes, these are very tenuous times, but I just believe that this country is strong, that our democracy is strong. I think the leaders obviously have to step up, but in Congress, I mean, we want more gun legislation, but we'll take what we have, but we want more restrictions on possession of illegal guns and high-capacity magazines and this seem like this endless supply of ammunition. We want people held accountable in our courts much more than they are. We want strong messages sent by our judges instead of what we have now. So I'll shut up and walk off on that one. Thank you.